and welcome to the 36th episode of Recluse Horror. This is a daily horror movie review podcast. With me again today is Sam.
Hey.
So just a little background on the project. Back 303 days ago, I decided I wanted to watch and review a horror movie every single day. I have done so, as I said, for the past 303 days, although only the last 36 have been podcasts. Before that, it was text reviews. So each episode, I talk about two movies, one of which is a movie that I've just seen that day, and the other is one that I've previously reviewed in text, where I just go over whatever impressions that I have left, aided, of course, by the text reviews. So how was your incredibly long day?
It was long. Tough.
Extra long, tough day?
All days are long.
Yeah.
All days are tough.
All days are tough. I'll give you that one.
Thanks for asking me about my day.
I thought I would ask you.
Bummer.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got spaghetti.
Yeah.
Got naps. Huh?
We're just talking about the movie now.
Thanks for asking. My day was fine, too.
That's fine.
So, you have no excuse to be tired, is all I'm saying. Not today. So...
I'm always tired.
So, the movie that we watched today is Grabbers from 2012. Now, initially I had sort of avoided this one, just because of... The picture for it looks stupid. It's not a poster, really. It's a picture on one of the streaming sites. But it looked stupid. And then the other day, why did we watch that trailer for it? Do you know why we watched it?
I don't know. I just didn't know what it was, probably.
Yeah, so you put it on. But yeah, we watched the trailer for it, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's more to this than it looks. It's not, scary level of or scary movie level of stupid. It's, something above that. So we watched it, and I liked it. Sam, how did you feel?
Yeah. I liked it too.
That's good. Okay. So basically, the movie, it takes place in Ireland. It's a British-Irish movie. The two of them joined forces for this movie. I'm not sure which place it was filmed, but it's supposed to be set in Ireland. And essentially, there's grabbers. That's the movie, right?
Yeah, they're grabbers.
There's a police officer Garda, actually. They're Irish, so there's a Garda officer, a Garda. They're called Garda, and the police force is called Garda, so. There's a Garda who is, filling in, essentially, for somebody who's on vacation, and she is, I don't know, she ends up there at a time when grabbers show up, which are pretty much what it sounds like, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're grabbers. They grab you. And yeah, and then, obviously, a horror / sort of horror comedy takes place at that point.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I don't know, I really liked it. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to say as far as, like, how or whatever that you liked it? What you liked about it, or anything like that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. No, I like the movie. I like the idea of horror comedies.
Yeah.
Because I'm never, like, afraid of horror movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, that brings levity into the horror movie, so they don't like it because they won't get scared.
Right.
But I won't get scared anyways. Mm-hmm. So at least it's something that was funny or interesting.
Yeah.
So I like them a lot. So I was curious about this movie, of how dumb it was, because It's called Grabbers.
Yeah.
And that's not a great name.
It's not a great name.
Which they talk about in the movie, which is also pretty funny.
They do. They acknowledge it. That's awesome.
So I don't know if that's extra funny or extra dumb. But no, it's pretty straightforward in the way. It's kind of it's kind of like a Simon Pegg movie.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. Yeah.
It's a lot like
World's End and
or Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. And, yeah.
Without being too much exactly like it.
A little Hot Fuzzy.
Yeah. Kind of all those movies mixed together.
Yeah.
Without being too terribly. the same.
It doesn't seem like a ripoff.
You could definitely make an argument that it is.
Yeah.
And you could definitely point out all the things that are the same.
But there's a lot of things that are different. The mood is different. Yeah. And it's a different kind of comedy a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of comedy. Yeah. It's actually not that much comedy.
No, it was surprisingly not. It starts off pretty seriously, and then it starts to get more comedic as it goes on. I kind of really appreciated that. They wanted to, you know, show off their chops, I think, for both styles of movie. And I think some people might be a little bit weirded out by the shift when it starts out serious and then turns into comedy.
There was a point where I was like, oh, we're into the comedy section of the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, and you can definitely feel like there's a little bit of a line where that happens, but I don't think it was too big of a deal, honestly. And I liked that they went for like a few scenes of like what amounts to pretty straight horror, like John Carpenter-esque sort of horror, I would call it. But yeah, I liked this one a lot. It also has an actor that I really like. His name is Russell Tover. He was the werewolf in Being Human, obviously the UK version, not the American version. And he's been in a few episodes of Doctor Who and, you know, a bunch of stuff. But he was in this and he was very good. Sam, that's the one who plays the Doctor, Dr. Smith. I don't know. There wasn't too much that I didn't like. How did you like the look of the grabbers?
I like the grabbers, and I'm surprised they were able to do them as well as they are.
Me too.
Just being a smaller budget, and then being heavily CG.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty decent CG.
Yeah, they still look very CG.
Yeah, you can tell that they're not real.
I'm very surprised at the competence of trying to make them look real and feel real.
Well, and there's some really neat aspects of how they do certain things, the way they move, the way they, you know, attack people and stuff like that is either not terribly usual, it's not the usual way you would expect that to go on, or it's very I guess stylized. There was definitely some thought put into this to try to make it unique, because I mean the idea of it and even the look of the creature on its face is a little bit on the standard side, but how they use the creatures is really interesting, and I really appreciated that. I liked that. It's probably one of my favorite parts, actually, was just that attention to detail on the way the creature behaves, basically. What did you think of the acting, just overall?
It's pretty good. It's not great at some parts. Some parts are very good. Some of them being drunk is pretty good. And
yeah.
Maybe not supernatural, but at least funny.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they were going for more than.
Yeah. Oh man, I've never seen a drunk played the way that Russell Tover did when he was in that scene, that one scene where he was super, super drunk.
Yeah.
I have never seen that level, that type of drunk in a movie, and I have definitely seen that type of drunk in a person before.
Right.
It's a little tiny bit exaggerated from that, but I've seen things in that, you know, approximated to that level. So it's kind of neat. I thought the acting was really good. There weren't really any parts where I was like, ugh, you know, where I felt like anybody really fell down. And there were some moments where people were really good.
Yeah. Everything was kind of passable. And then there was not
few
great, but there were a few moments of really good acting here and there.
Yeah.
Which made up for the kind of just standard, you know, not terrible, not great.
And there's a lot of charm to some of the characters, too.
Yeah.
Some of them, you know, come off as a little bit like, you know, stereotypical, like an archetype of some kind. In fact, most of them probably do to a certain extent. But they're played so well that the stereotypicalness or whatever, stereotypicity, I don't know what that word would be, actually, of it is, I think it's eased quite a bit. And it's not trying not to be those things, you know, it's not trying not to be stereotypes or try to pretend that they're not, you know, that they're not stereotypes, I guess. I don't know. I'm just repeating myself at this point. But yeah, so it's not really a problem for me. It's a simple story, and the way that it's told is supposed to be pretty standard. It's just a funny version of it, kind of.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I think in that way, we really don't have that much to talk about in this movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty... it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I think a big reason why we liked it is it wasn't overblown in any way.
No,
we didn't hear people rave about it, because maybe if that was the case,
yeah, then it wouldn't have felt so.
It wouldn't feel, yeah, because it's a movie I like barely ever heard of. It's
right.
It's what, like 5 years old now.
Yeah, it's from 2012. Did I say it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I never heard of it. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I just stumbled across it because I watch a horror movie a day, kind of.
Almost. Yeah. Very close to. At least 5 a week.
So it's something I came across looking for horror movies. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if somebody had talked it up, I might not have liked it as much. But it's just kind of a small movie that does more than you would expect a small movie to do.
Right, yeah.
And more competently.
Yeah.
So there's not a ton to talk about other than the grabbers.
Yeah. Which are awesome.
It makes you want to drink, and you want to say grabbers a bunch of times.
Grabbers. Yeah, we said grabbers probably 85,000 times. And then Sam grabbed my roommate's cat, and he was a grabber.
Yeah, as a grabber. On the cat.
On the cat. He grabbed the cat. So, yeah, it is. It's very straightforward. It's a very simple story. And honestly, it's not... There's very little, I feel like, that really sets it apart other than like some of the charm of some of the scenes and the acting. The specific ways, like I said, the movement and so forth, the behavior of the creature, the grabber. And I mean, that might be it. The particular brand of humor there is a little bit, I mean, not unique,
a specific thing about the humor and the things I hate in horror movies where people just make dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Aids the fact that they're drunk.
Yeah.
Like they're drunk for a pretty good portion of this movie.
Yeah.
So at any point they're making these like dumb decisions or like making jokes, they're like hammered drunk.
Yeah. So it makes sense.
Yeah, so it makes sense, and you're like, yeah, I guess if I was that drunk.
Yeah, that might seem like a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Some of my best ideas when I was drunk come out.
Yeah, you remember that time when you jumped down all those stairs and bruised the hell out of your heels?
Which time? Which time?
Oh, you're so fucking lucky you didn't break your ankle. Anyway, yeah. I mean, we've all done drunk, stupid stuff. Even those of us who don't get drunk that often all have some kind of story that they're suppressing. And so this is just sort of a culmination of that. And yeah, I honestly didn't think most of the stuff that they did was like really stupid.
There's a few things.
There are a couple of things for sure that is like, that is not a good idea. What are you doing? As far as negatives in this movie are concerned, obviously the stereotypical characters, the rather sort of standard plot for this, that may put some people off. It's really down to taste on this one, I think. As far as like whether you enjoy the humor and the way things play out. But it is, it's...
Yeah, if you're looking for something more serious, it's not. And if you're looking for something that's more of a comedy, it's not.
It's also not that, yeah. It's in this weird middle place. Not bad middle place, but just like between... It's not a full-on comedy and it's not a full-on horror, and, it's right in that sweet spot, I think, for me personally. Like, I don't mind... I'm very picky about horror comedies. I'm not ever going to watch the Evil Bong movies unless somebody pays me money. I'm not going to watch the scary movies unless somebody pays me money. And I can guarantee you right now the reviews of those are probably not going to be very positive. So, but like, yeah, it's not... I don't know. I don't have a sense of humor. I know we've talked about that before, but I'm not much for comedy. There's definitely comedies that I appreciate, like I like the Simon Pegg movies and stuff like that, which is probably why I appreciate this one, since it feels somewhere in the vicinity of that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good horror comedy. It's not overly stupid. There's no, there's no pot humor. There's no, there's not a bunch of slapstick or whatever. It's kind of...
There's not a ton of farts in it.
Yeah, none of that. It's not lowbrow, it's just regular brow. I wouldn't say it was highbrow, of course, but it's like regular ass comedy, I guess. For the circumstances, and everything sort of fits. Like, they don't seem to go out of their way to make jokes, which I appreciate. Like, they make the jokes that are there. It doesn't feel like they wrote scenes just to be funny, which is something that I kind of appreciate. Like, the circumstances kind of are just funny in some places. You know. Gosh, I know there was another negative I was going to talk about, but I can't remember what it is. Was there anything particularly, negative that you felt about it that I haven't covered yet?
No, just it's just the way people perceive it, or just the way people feel about those types of movies.
It's a taste thing.
Yeah, and I get that. I kind of lean that way a lot of times with certain movies.
Yeah.
That was one of the concerns of watching this movie in the first place, is how dumb it was, or how much of a scary movie it was going to try to be, and mixing the two tones.
Yeah.
With horror comedies is really, it's really tough, even for me, who, I don't care if a movie's scary or not scary. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But just the way it makes it feel, the way the pacing goes, or the way the theme of the movie goes.
Yeah.
How it affects it. But I think it did a good job.
Yeah.
Better than some, worse than others.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not, like, the best horror comedy of 2012 or anything. I mean, it could be. I don't watch a lot of horror comedies.
I don't know what came out in 2012. It's no Tucker and Dale.
It is no Tucker and Dale. Was that 2012?
No, I don't know when that was.
It might be 2012.
I was naming horror comedies I think are good.
Yeah. Seriously, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, if you have not seen that one, you have to see it.
It's super good.
It is possibly my favorite horror comedy ever.
It's not as good as that. But this is still pretty.
It's
pretty good.
Decent.
Pretty good.
It's pretty regular.
I don't want to oversell it, because I can see that being a reason why someone doesn't like it.
Yeah, if you do,
it's definitely not gonna live up to, like, it's super good.
No. It's not.
But it's pretty
There's
good.
some neat things about it.
Yeah.
It has a unique sense of humor that sort of quirky but not overbearing sense of humor. The actors are good. They don't always do exactly what you expect them to, but they're not trying to, like, break too far out of the archetype either, and, like, pretend that they're not just a complete archetypal, like, archetypical.
Yeah. Is that a word?
I think so. Set of characters. So, I mean, it's a good version of a standard story that follows what you might expect based on the premise. That's all it is, really. It's good. I really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't call it great by any capacity. So I remember that negative that I was totally lost track of earlier. So there's definitely a couple of places where it feels like they may have, like, left out, I mean, just a couple of scenes. Did you get that
like
feeling?
A few things that kind of move too fast or don't wrap up.
Yeah. Just a couple of things.
We could talk about them with their spoilers.
Yeah, they're totally spoilers. But honestly, like, you can fill in the blanks there. Like, it's nothing where it's like, no, but I need this question answered.
Gotta say something for the sequel.
I know, gotta say something for the sequel. I know, which is too bad, because it's 2012.
I don't think it is gonna
exactly.
have a sequel.
If that was 2012, they should have made it already, probably. It's not it's like middling on the rating sites, apparently. It's got,
I think it should be a little higher than that.
I think so, too. What does it have? 62 on Metascore and 6.3 on IMDb. So, pretty middling, but it's upper middling, 6.3. Again, I add, like, 2 points to any IMDb score, which, or for horror. Horror comedy, sometimes you have to add more and sometimes you have to add less, I feel like, to get, like, what it ought to be rated, but I don't know. It's still, it's good. That's all.
You want to talk about the director real fast?
Yes. Who is the director?
It's John Wright.
Oh, John Wright. Who is that? That name is super familiar.
I don't know why you would know the name.
Uh-huh.
I only know a movie I want to watch that they directed called Robot Overlords.
Amazing.
It looks fucking terrible.
Does it? Wow.
The two characters, I don't know if they're main characters, I don't know if they're side characters.
Is that Ben Kingsley?
Are Ben Kingsley and Gillian Anderson. I've been wanting to watch it for years.
Man.
I believe it's on Netflix.
No way.
And I've been wanting to watch it for years, but just could not find...
Can the argument even be made that that's a horror movie?
No, I don't think so.
Damn it. Oh, Ben Kingsley and Gillian Anderson?
I've told you about this movie.
Oh, man.
but it looks so bad.
Yeah, it's called Robot Overlords, and it's got real ass actors in it. It's got to be terrible.
But after watching this movie, I hope they realize how bad the movie is, and that helps the movie be watchable.
Like cult-wise? Like The Happening-wise?
Yeah, I don't know. Something-wise.
Something-wise?
Give me a little something.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
But that's
Ben Kingsley and Gillian Anderson.
That's really all I had to say about it.
Okay.
And most of the other actors I don't know from anything else.
Yeah, they're not people who come over here a lot, necessarily. Russell Tover's done a few American things.
I think...
that I can't remember, but...
whatever the actor that played Ruth, I believe
the
she's
older
been in... no, the other main character.
Her name is Ruth? I didn't think her name was Ruth. I thought it was Lisa.
Oh, is it Lisa? It might be Lisa.
I think her name is Lisa.
Yeah, it is Lisa. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Ruth is the old woman.
Right, okay. She's been in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that people could have seen, I didn't see.
Yeah. Oh, she's in that Electric Dreams.
Yeah, she's in the Electric Dreams.
Philip K. Dick, the new TV series.
She's in The Fall.
Oh, she is.
Which I don't remember from that.
We may not have seen that season. We haven't seen it all yet, remember?
But those are a couple things that people might have
that?
seen.
In Her Skin. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. That might be different.
Fly Boys, which I remember when that came out. I did not see it because
I didn't see it either. It did look stupid.
But maybe a few things other people have seen. Like, they are a little more mainstream than some of the other actors, is what I was getting at.
Right, yeah. Oh, see, the actor's name is Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why you were saying. Yeah, Russell Tover, like I said, he's been in a few things. He plays, like, the third main character, probably. The first two are Garda. The main characters are both, like, law enforcement. And then he's, like, the third main character, basically. Has he been in anything?
He was in the Prince of Persia movie that we all watched.
Oh, man.
Oh, and they were in The Fall, too.
He was in The Fall, too, huh? Interesting. What's his name? He's the Garda, the main Garda. Richard Coyle. Okay, so apparently this is Fall alum. Well, they went on to do Fall. The Fall was after this. The Fall is a TV show that, honestly, any horror fan should probably at least check out. It's probably too slow for most people. But yeah, I guess I won't talk about... I don't really know how to synopsize this without giving away spoilers, so... Yeah, I don't know. I think it's on Netflix still. You should check it out. It has Gillian Anderson as the lead. And what's the other guy's name?
I don't care. I don't know.
You liked it, though.
David Duchovny?
No, it's not David Duchovny. That's X-Files. I don't know. He's the guy... Dornan? Jamie Dornan?
I can look it up.
I think it's Jamie Dornan.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But it's excellent. It's very moody, creepy, unsettling, sort of horror-ish, horror-adjacent. It may not be quite horror, but it definitely has moments that go full horror.
Yeah.
Jamie Dornan. Yeah. Boom. So yeah, and he
nailed
it. I like it when I remember stuff. I have terrible memory, so. But yeah, no, he's really good. So yeah, check out The Fall. That's a full recommend for sure. I've only seen the first season so far, but it's super good. Anything else to say about the Grabbers? Or Grabbers? Yeah, Grabbers.
No, I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Who would you recommend this to?
Anybody who likes horror comedies.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a type of person that likes horror comedies,
yeah,
definitely watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as they're not, just ridiculously stupid horror comedies, which are mostly just comedies and not horror comedies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll like it. Anybody that can stand any sort of light-esque movie.
Yeah.
Without it being, just ridiculous comedy.
Yeah, it's not laugh-out-loud humor. I don't think there was anything that was, like, that really caught you off guard and made you, like, laugh. Yeah, I would suggest it again for anybody who likes horror comedies, anybody who likes the Simon Pegg movies. This is it's a little bit different, and it's definitely doesn't have quite the same, finesse or, it's not as unique a story as most of those are, but if you appreciate those, you'll probably have some enjoyment of this. It's not going to be better than any of those. I would be really shocked if anybody who liked those movies is like, this is way better. If you're a standard rank and file, like, horror fan, there's probably some elements that you'll like. It's not, comedic enough, that it would necessarily put you off it, but it's also not as horror-y as well as, as some of them. Like Sam said, he doesn't get scared by horror movies terribly often. I don't get scared by horror movies terribly often. So, them, failing to scare me is not a big concern. This is also not a bad one if you're really itching to watch a horror movie, but you're with somebody who doesn't want to watch them. This is a good, like, medium place, I think, if you're in mixed company. There's nothing that's terribly, like, graphic. There's not too much that's terribly graphic about this one. There's not a whole lot of blood or gore or anything like this, like that in this, so. Did you have anything else? Is
Nope.
that it? Okay, well, that's our review of Grabbers from 2012. So the other movie that we have to talk about today is Beyond the Gates from 2016. Samuel, how did you like Beyond the Gates from 2016?
Not a ton.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's such a shame is that I feel like this movie had so much potential. I was totally on board for the premise of this movie, and as far as I'm concerned, they kind of squandered the opportunity. That's just my personal opinion. I know that people, I think at least when I looked the last time, which would have been probably back in May, it was rated sort of high, like pretty high, I think, like, in the 80s maybe even. But I just, I really didn't like it very much. So Beyond the Gates is about two brothers whose father has disappeared. It's not the first time that he's done this, but this time it seems longer. The father owned and operated an independent video store in which they discover a strange VHS game. So that's pretty much, I know I'm making the premise of it seem probably a little more boring than it actually is, but that's the bare premise. And VHS game, I'm on board. Like, I was excited that they had made a movie about a VHS game.
That's why we watched it.
That is why we watched it. We watched it like the day or the day after it hit Netflix. So I was the thing that kills me is that, like, I felt like I was going to be really excited about this going in, and I was so into it by the opening credit sequence. Do you remember that opening credit sequence?
It's very good. It's possibly the best part of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Pretty close.
So
very good.
The credits were handled by playing a cheesy 80s synth track over, like, footage of the inside of a VHS player playing a tape. And it's such a classic scene for those types of movies that I was immediately drawn in. And like Sam said, like, I just don't think this movie really got very much better than that. Like, that should not be your best scene. That's a standard stock. I mean, even when it's done well, it's a standard stock opening. It's like the opening of, like, Child's Play, where they're making the doll, or the opening of Jawbreaker, where they're making the Jawbreaker.
Those are both pretty good scenes, though.
I know.
So I don't know.
They're both good. But I'm just saying, like, it's not like it's new or different, It just set the theme and the mood of what's happening very well. And I think that's what both of those do. Those scenes usually do that if they do them well. And this one was done well. But it's possibly the best done thing in the movie, and that's bad. That's bad. So for those unfamiliar with the concept of a VHS game, it involves a VHS tape that's played usually in combination with, like, a board game that sets the mood and gives the instructions as the game is played. Often, the person on the tape will throw curveballs at the players periodically, telling them that, the youngest player has lost a turn, or making the players give the person with the least of some kind of token some of their tokens. There are other types of VHS game. Of course, there's, like, ones that you can, like, shoot at the screen and stuff like that. But this seems to have been the type that Beyond the Gates was trying to emulate. And in this regard, to me, it failed miserably. What did you think about the game?
It was bad. That was the letdown.
That was the big letdown.
Is that the game's not.
It's not a playable, workable scenario in any way.
It's less playable than Jumanji is playable, and that's, like, terrible.
That takes magic.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really frustrating in that way that's kind of what you're looking forward to, is them playing the game.
Yeah.
And then they start playing, and you're like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
None sense.
So, yeah.
So, my first annoyance with this movie was the fact that the game isn't discovered or mentioned until almost halfway through the movie. Did you remember that? That it took them that long? Mm-hmm. See, I hadn't remembered that. That's from my review. So, That is a lot of first act for any kind of movie, but especially one in which the characters aren't really the most interesting people. One way to alleviate that grievance would have been to try to have the characters focus more on finding their father, which was not the priority for them, like, for most of the movie. The brothers came mainly to clear out their father's store, and so instead of the estranged relationship dialogue being sandwiched between scenes investigating his disappearance, it comes between scenes of, like, dinners and sleeping. Like, I really can't even remember. If the dialogue was compelling, it might not need it, but the dialogue wasn't compelling either, so, like, it is just like a bunch of nothing garbage to me, and then finally they discover and start playing the game, so.
Yeah, I agree. The weaknesses are definitely the way the story plays out, not even the overall story. The overall story is actually kind of fine. It's just fine. The dialogue. The acting's not great in some parts.
Yeah.
The outcome of things and the way things are set up are very slow paced to actually anything happening.
Well, yeah. Well, and like here's how the scenes play out. Finally, when they get the game and they decide they want to play it, they pop it in the VHS for a minute and then they put it away. Later, they pop in the VHS for a minute and then they stop playing. After that, they start playing again and stop. This happens over and over and over so many times that I literally shouted at my TV for them to just play the game. Do you remember that? They'd have like 1 minute, they'd look at the tape and they'd be like, huh, weird.
Oh, let's go get Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly. Even though they like are uncomfortable and don't like want to be in the same room a lot of the time. Like the brothers are not, they're not close.
It's really clunky.
Yeah.
I think the strengths of the movie are the look of the movie and the premise of the movie.
Yes. The look and premise, strong.
Which made me want to watch
strong.
it.
Look pretty strong.
Which are really good. It goes back to what you were saying about the opening.
Yeah.
Being the most interesting part because that embodied the look and the idea of the movie that the movie just never paid off on. There's interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Things that were semi good and semi worked. But there's just so many that didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm never gonna get over this particular part about the game, but like I would say that maybe a little over 15 minutes is spent actually playing the game. Leaving an hour or so of like clunky dialogue. There's some, sleeping scenes where people, wake up at a start or somebody wakes them up or whatever. And then they just talk about the game without playing it for a lot of time. And then they pack up boxes of stuff. Like, that's the whole movie. So many of these scenes in the movie are repeated ad nauseum, covering no new ground and giving the audience no new information. It doesn't take long to feel all of the filler in this movie, though initially I was thinking perhaps they were just trying to set up things for later in the movie because there are some indications that maybe they're like, oh, remember that he did this thing that looks innocuous, but I bet it's not innocuous. Maybe that was the plan, but the movie doesn't, like, none of it ever pays off, and some of it even makes it slightly confusing in a few ways. But really, the most irritating part of the movie for me was the game itself.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be the high point of the movie, and it's really not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of well-shot scenes and well-lit scenes.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot.
The look of it isn't too bad.
Of good aspects of the movie, but they don't add up to being a good movie.
No, they don't.
It's kind of a waste in that way. If they were just a little bit more focused and detail-oriented on what the movie needed to be.
Yeah.
On what needed to happen.
And they took out some of the filler. The movie needed way less filler.
Yeah, so definitely less filler. The problem is most of the filler has dialogue in it.
Yeah, so you'd have to put that But you could have had it while they're doing more important stuff.
It's true. They just didn't.
They just chose not to. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Barbara Cranston is in this movie.
Crampton.
Yeah, Crampton. Sorry,
Barbara Crampton. Yeah, I was gonna get to that.
From Reanimator.
Yeah, she's the love interest from Reanimator that I think we talked about.
Yeah, and a bunch of other movies. She was in Puppet Master.
That's right. Yeah.
We've talked about her before, right?
Yeah, we have. We talked to her. We talked about her in Reanimator and in Puppet Master,
which was cool to see. She was actually really good in it. She had a tiny nothing
role
part.
Yeah, for sure.
But she was really good in it, so I wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
like she did nothing, but it was really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the acting isn't terrible, and most of them have done several horror movies, but even if they had been excellent, I doubt that it really would have saved the script.
Yeah, this would even be more so a good movie that just failed by being put together.
Yeah.
It'd be just more of a waste. Because like I said, I think a lot of the shots are really good.
Yeah.
Especially for a low budget movie, a lot of the lighting is really good.
Yeah, there's a few good lit scenes, yeah.
It just couldn't add up into, like, the story couldn't add it up into a good movie.
No. So, one of the other actors in this is Matt Mercer, who was the lead from Contracted Phase 2, which, if you haven't seen the Contracted movies, I've already seen them both, so I can't review them. I saw them before I started doing this project, and if I don't have a text review, honestly, like, I can't really review a movie unless I have a really strong memory of it, because I really rely pretty heavily on those reviews to remind me of things that pissed me off or that I really liked about stuff. But both of those I really personally liked. They're very interesting. Their mood is good. They're pretty gross in all the ways that you kind of want certain horror movies to be gross. And Matt Mercer does a great job. He's actually, he was in Contracted Phase 1 as well. But they're both really good here. He's good in both of those. But he doesn't really get much of a chance to stretch his wings in this movie, and neither does Barbara Crampton. She's just in so little of it, and her character is so limited because of the circumstances that, like, there's only so much that you can do. I was really kind of hoping that this movie would decide if I really liked, Matt Mercer or not, or if it was just like a good luck thing that I enjoyed him in the movies that I saw him in, but it was really no help. There's a small part played by someone named Jesse Merlin that's pretty amusing, but it probably would have been a little more effective if they'd cut out one of his scenes. Merlin also does the voice of Fang in Street Fighter V, which cool. I know that you would like, so.
Kinda.
But yeah, as to the main characters, they were nothing really special, but not too bad either. One of the brothers was played by the actor who played Dave and John Dies in the End. Did you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, sorry, John dies at the end.
Yeah. Josh dies at the end.
Josh dies at the end. This book is full of spiders, is what I meant.
John dies at the end.
And he was probably the best of the leads, but again, he didn't really have a ton to work with. It felt a lot like the actors had their proverbial hands off the wheel for this one, just doing whatever they were told and hoping it came together in editing. I don't think...
This movie had a very small budget.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the shooting was probably limited.
Yeah.
So it's probably a lot of first takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very low budget movie.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate that they actually have some good stuff in it for that.
Right. Yeah.
I just think they probably needed to take more time.
Yeah.
And it probably could have been a much better movie.
Yeah. So, another aspect, I'm not sure if you remember this, but they were trying to go for, sort of an 80s throwback feel, but they kept abandoning it and then returning to it, like, seemingly at random.
Super hard.
Yeah. The plot holes are, and the confusion because of those plot holes was pretty strong. There's a bunch of terrible looking food that they eat all throughout the movie. Did you remember that?
Yeah. No, but kind of. I remember them eating all the time.
They only
time the plot happens is over dinner.
I
don't know. Yeah. I could not tell you why that it was.
Yeah.
But they're like, we need story to happen. Dinner scene.
And the food looks terrible. Yeah, people eat terrible looking food, but, like, this is stuff that I've never seen in a movie. This isn't even stuff that I've seen in somebody's house that, like, has 7 kids and they're, like, completely overwhelmed and, like, have to make an army's worth of food every day.
That sounds amazing.
So, the sets I thought were pretty bland. For the most part, the stuff that wasn't completely over stylized, I thought was pretty dull.
The house was pretty dull.
Yeah.
They're going to clean out the video store.
Uh-huh.
That actually looks amazing.
That does look amazing.
So I don't know if that's
it's supposed to look like. I mean, it looks like a real VHS.
That's
store.
What I'm saying. I don't know if it actually is one.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, they did an amazing job making it look like a real.
The right kind of shelves, the right flooring, the fluorescent
I wish the whole movie
lights.
took place there.
Yeah, that would be great if they played that game in the middle of there.
They should have.
What game though? Seriously.
No, they
The
should have
game is
played a
unplayable.
good game.
That's the thing.
There.
The game is unplayable. You can't, and it's not like you can't play because you don't have the VHS. It's
Or you don't have
can't
magic to play it.
Yeah, or you don't have
can't
magic.
play because it doesn't make any sense.
Like Jumanji, you could feasibly play if the magic worked, right?
Right.
But it's still a stupid board game. But like literally, like you roll the dice and you move the pieces, and wherever you land, like that's what shit happens to you. Like you get it, right?
Yeah.
It has a point. You want to do the things.
You
and, like,
roll a 2 or
each
5
person
or whatever.
has a
turn.
Yeah.
Robin Williams has a turn. He goes. You can't go until Robin Williams can't go again until everybody else that's playing goes and he gets another turn.
Right, yeah.
This is not that game. They just go out of order. They can do whatever they wanted.
All the rules keep changing, or they were never established in the first place. Some of the stuff is just completely unplayable. So they break their own rules even when they do establish, like, the few rules that it has. There's no real, I don't know. There's no game. There's no game to it. No person could play this game. And that is completely frustrating because I feel like this shouldn't have been very hard to...
Well, at least understand that they have turns.
Yes, to at least understand. It's just rip off another board game. If you really have to, rip off another board game.
Just rip off having turns. It was their turn, now it's their turn, and now it's the next person's turn. And so on.
Right, yeah. So, what do you have open the IMDb? Do you want to see what it's rated?
I think it was 5.2.
Oh, okay, good. They've corrected it. We like I said, I watched this right after it hit Netflix, so there's always a big boost of people who, like, immediately like it and rate it 10 stars all the time, but it usually comes down.
Yeah, 5.2.
5.2. Okay, so apparently I'm not the only one who disliked this movie. Again, the mood is pretty interesting. The 80s throwback stuff, when they decide to do it, is pretty fun. Some of the, like, gore and stuff like that is pretty interesting, or well enough done, I felt like.
Yeah, I think the premise is pretty good, and
yeah,
the idea of using VHS board game is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wasn't put together well.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty simple.
It is.
Is why this movie wasn't good.
So, to me, the movie really just felt like it was trying to prey on people's nostalgia for the 80s.
So we watched it.
Yeah, that's exactly why we watched it. VHS game. I'm on
VHS
board.
game, I know.
I'm on board. You say VHS game, I am on board. I don't care whether I'm watching a movie about it, whether I'm playing it. Like,
if someone's like, we're playing a VHS game tonight, you're like, yeah, I don't really want to play it because they're dumb, but I'm gonna play.
Like, let me call a lift. Hold on.
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah. How far are you? Can I walk there? I know it's raining. I don't care. So yeah. If you're looking for a good 80s nostalgia film, I say watch Turbo Kid.
Turbo Kid's amazing.
Turbo Kid is one of the most amazing. It's like an action horror movie that's 80s nostalgia without being like, hey, look at us. This is 80s. Hey, do you see this 80s stuff? Aren't we cool? It just is 80s. It's the soundtrack is great. The acting is great. The story is great. That Unit B team, man.
The effects are great.
The effects are fantastic. It is super good, and it will appeal to horror fans, although I wouldn't call it a horror film necessarily. I would maybe say it's like an action gore film.
Gore film.
Yeah. So it's, but yeah, it's fantastic. If you want a better version, like a better horror version of Jumanji, watch the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode, because this one is not this is not better. This is not an improvement. This is not a more horror version of Jumanji. It's just garbage. There's no game. If you're making a movie about a game, please make your game at least somewhat playable. That's all I have to say. Samuel, did you have anything else to say?
I don't hate it as much as you hate it.
They promised me rules.
But the game doesn't make sense,
which
is a big flaw.
Yeah.
And the story meanders. A lot of the aesthetics are really good. The music's really good.
Yeah.
A lot of the camera work is really good.
If you cut...
Surprisingly good for what a low-budget movie it is. So it's understandable that it's not very good. Mm-hmm. But it still makes it add up to not being very good.
If you cut together the 20 minutes of, like, stuff that's, like, the 80s throwback or the, like, more horror aspects of it, like, there's really only 20 minutes of that probably in the movie.
Yeah, this was actually something I thought would probably be a much better short film.
Yeah. I think it would have. I think they wouldn't have given you enough time or enough opportunity to realize that their game is bullshit.
Yeah.
And in this movie, there was a, like, board game design credit like a board game design by credit in this. So they must have been talking about like the graphic design of it.
Yeah, and the actual board game looks awesome.
Yeah,
the actual board.
Yeah, the board does look awesome. The game is unplayable, but the board looks awesome. When I saw that in the credits, the board game designed by, I assumed that this was going to be like a real actual, like they tried to make rules that made sense, like
yeah, and a whole game that possibly existed.
Yeah, exactly, that you could like play or at least maybe play if you had the magic.
Yeah, it's not impossible to make a board game.
It's so not impossible.
It's super easy.
Yeah.
It might not be the best board game,
but it can be a functional board game.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be like totally balanced. It doesn't have to be something that like people at home can make their own version of. Just something where you understand like, okay, they did this, so that means they have to do this then, and then they win the game. Or like, oh no, that person lost, and you know what that means. Like,
yeah, and that's a big problem with the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.
So I know that I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but in case we're not aware of this, if you haven't listened to any of those episodes, I personally really appreciate when a movie sets rules of any kind, not just board game rules, but
like magic rules, demon rules, serial killer rules.
Yeah, anything like that. When people actually set rules, like this person always does this, or this demon, you have to kill it with like bunny rabbit blood or something, whatever it is. And then they stick to that and they find clever ways to work that in and stick with those rules. This movie, it lends itself to the premise of there being rules so well, of being rules that are easy to follow because they're a board game, because rules exist in board games and they have forever. And they set up very obvious, like, you do this or this happens. You do this or this happens. You do this and this happens, like in a good way. And they just squandered all of that possibility for me. So I'm probably more pissed off about this because they had the opportunity to put in a set of rules that they could follow and then they didn't follow them. So that, other people might not be as pissed off by this as I am. Just full disclosure, that's just something that really sticks in my craw personally. So did you want to talk about the director?
Not really. It's Jackson Stewart. They directed an episode of Supernatural.
Oh gosh.
And a couple of other things. A short called Ninja Masters 4: The Possession.
Okay.
Which I thought was a different movie, but apparently it's a short from 2015.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they wrote that.
That I'm going to try to find. Oh, this is the writer credit. Right?
Yeah, he's in the writer credits.
Director credits.
Oh,
they also directed it.
Oh, they also directed it. And Sex Boss. Oh, good. The short film from 2013, the very well-known short called Sex Boss.
I'm going to watch that. So, no, I got it.
He's got nothing. We got nothing.
I'm done.
How did they get Barbara Crampton on board with this? Is that her nephew? Okay, so, I guess that's all. Is there anybody that you would suggest this movie for?
If you wanted to hear some cool synth and watch the intro credit.
Watch the intro credit sequence and maybe get the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember if all of the soundtrack is good. I just remember the 80
part. I think
most
of it
the
is
synth
good.
Parts were good. Okay. So there you go. There's a positive. There might be the only full positive then. And I'm not even positive. I'm pretty sure they are, though. I would have mentioned it if it was really terrible. I would have mentioned everything else that was anyway. Even the food. I wouldn't really suggest this to anyone. Specifically, I would say click through it. I would say if you had it, click through it. Just look at the cool stuff and don't worry about the actual movie.
I give this movie 2 out of 10 Jumanjis.
2 out of 10
and I'll
Jumanjis.
give Grabbers 10 out of 10 Grabbers.
Yeah!
Huh?
I love it.
And we got to say Grabbers a few more times.
Grabbers!
Huh?
Yeah, Grabbers. Okay, Sam's taking off early. So that's our review of Beyond the Gates from whatever year it was. 2016. And that's kind of our show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, or whatever it is on whatever site you found us. The best way to help us out here at the show is to share it with people that you love or that, you think would be interested in the show. If you would like to reach out to us on social media, you can do so at reclusehorror@gmail.com, or you can, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. the Instagram, I basically just post photos of the movies that I'm reviewing, photos of the posters, of course, because it's on Instagram. They're like squares of it, so it's never a full poster. So if you don't like the platform that you found us on, or if you are trying to share it with somebody who's, has a different platform than you can find us on YouTube, Player FM, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and pretty much any podcatcher out there. But yeah, that's, I think that's about it. I don't have Sam to say goodbye, to make him say goodbye to you guys, so I guess I'll have to just say goodbye to you myself. Goodbye.